case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
All right, as I mentioned, Guardsy is in Arizona tracking the Golden Gophers. I can't remember the name of the bowl they're in, but they are in one of those meaningless bowls. And so I don't even know if he's on the rest of the week or not. I'm out after today. But our good friend Sam is here to give us a little late the top 5 at 5 because Lieber obviously always goes till about 5:15. What we used to call back in the day the 5:20 sports fix. Where would you like to begin?
Well, the Gophers are playing in the Rate Bowl, formerly the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, against the New Mexico Lobos.
Yeah, that's good. I think I kind of knew that, but I'm glad you refreshed my memory because I'm not sure I did. That's for sure.
Let's start with the Timberwolves, who had a pretty busy weekend. On Friday night, they took down the defending champs, the Oklahoma City Thunder, 112-107, with an 8-0 run to end the game. And was unbelievable at the end of that game, by the way.
Yes, he was.
Then last night, the Wolves beat the Giannis-less Milwaukee Bucks 103-100. The Wolves get a day off today before hosting the defending NBA Cup champions, the New York Knicks, tomorrow night at the Target Center. The
return of Cat. Obviously, the Knicks are playing very well, although I think they've had a relatively generous schedule, kind of like the Wolves. And again, the Friday night game, which we talked a little bit about on sermons, was impressive, needed. We had all certainly discussed the fact that the Wolves had not, the record was solid, but it just had not feel like we had many of those weighty victories that feel like they're more than one victory in the regular season. And it turned out to be a terrific game after Finchie lost his mind. Did the officiating change because of him? I don't know. I guess it's possible. If anybody listens to this show knows I kind of weary over officiating obsession. And we didn't get to this part of it with Johnny, but in his story, he laid out very nicely that the numbers, the actual facts, don't even fit the conspiracy theory that many Wolves fans feel about Oklahoma City. That not only in that game, if you want to say, well, that game is the free throw disparity in the favor of the Wolves was because Finchie lost his mind. Okay, you want to believe that? Go ahead. But the fact of the matter is, if you look up the numbers, the Wolves on an average basis get to the free throw line far more often than Oklahoma City, despite the free throw merchant that they have, the SGA. So I weary of it. I like that it was a competitive game, and to your point, down the stretch, Edwards was terrific, and two of the plays obviously were made on the other end of the court. The shot he made is a shot he can make. It's clutch when you make it. I don't love the shot, to be honest with you. I'd prefer a better shot, but he nailed it. And then he had a block and obviously a steal, and so a reminder that at his best, what Edwards represents is a terrific two-way player, and he got that done. I mentioned yesterday, though, it's funny on how it works. Like, if we play a good team the night after we've played somebody else and we don't play particularly well, we're immediately told it's a schedule loss anyway, and it's not really the Wolves' fault. But when the roles are reversed and we seem to gain from the other team being in that position, the subject never even comes up. And I guess that's just how the way it works. That's just human nature.
Chris Finch fined $35,000, by the way, for that ejection.
By the way, on that, I feel like there's almost an insurrection taking place around the league. Several other coaches are losing their minds lately about officiating. So I don't know if it's just viral or if there's something fundamentally concerning about officiating that a number of coaches are mentioning. I don't know. Is it consistency? Is it first half seems to be officiated different than the second, that the rules seem to change? Lakers guy just last night, it was more on consistency about what can be challenged and what can't be challenged. So I don't know what they're going to do in the NBA league offices, but right now the officials are a little bit under siege.
Moving from Minneapolis to St. Paul, the Wild had their 7-game win streak snapped at the hands of the first place Colorado Avalanche, losing 5-1. It's their first loss since December 6th. Ryan Hartman scored the only goal, which came in the third period. Wallstedt had 37 saves, gave up 4. There was one empty net. And the Wild will look to bounce back tomorrow night as they host the Nashville Predators at Grand Casino Arena.
It was disappointing, obviously, because the buildup it was large, okay? This is the new and improved Wild, and here you have the ultimate challenge, and you get it at home, and you're feeling really good about your club. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as, wow, well, yeah, they've made a nice jump, but they still have to make another jump to match what the Lanch represent. And that might end up being the case because the Colorado Avalanche record to this point is borderline absurd. On the other hand, I'd say that you're sooner or later you're going to lose. You probably want to lose a little bit more competitively than they did. And I think we were down. I think we cut it to 2. I think we were down 3-0. Then it was 3-1, and that was the extent of it. And then we had actually good pressure. I watched that section of the game. Down 3-1, we had scoring opportunities to cut the goal to 1. We're unable to do it. They opened it up more. So I wouldn't, if I'm a hockey fan, I wouldn't lose my mind over that loss because, as I said, we were all kind of kidding about it. They weren't going to go the rest of the season undefeated. On the other hand, it tells you that as good as they've been, it almost feels like the Colorado Avalanche, at least right now, are on another plateau.
The sports world on Friday night was not focused on Minneapolis. It was focused on Miami, probably the most talked about, most hyped, or maybe overhyped event in recent memory. Took place in Miami, Florida on Friday night as Jake Paul faced Anthony Joshua. Joshua knocked out Paul in the 6th round, broke his jaw. The estimates are just that, estimates, but they're expecting that each fighter made around $92 million. Did you watch any of that?
Are you being serious? $92 million?
Yeah, I mean, Paul's expected to take home a little bit more just because he owns the promotion. But the estimates are saying that it was a split purse of $184 million.
Jeez. I guess I shouldn't be surprised with all the money that's out there. I did not watch any of it. Did you?
I did. How about this? Instead of channel surfing, I was app surfing between the Wolves game and Netflix watching the fight.
That's what you got to do now. Well, I've complained about the fact that if I'm watching one thing on DirecTV and another thing on the app, the old days of going back and forth between the two, a lot more frustrating now because it's not just pushing one button and you got to go back. I'm hoping that will be resolved somewhere down the road. But I didn't get to see any of it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't miss a whole lot. The end was worth the wait, but it shouldn't have gone 6 rounds. I was being stubborn because I was watching the Wolves game. That's where my interest was.
Right.
But, it's like you can't take your eyes off of it.
No, it is. It's like watching train wrecks from time to time, that's for sure.
Speaking of Miami, though, let's talk about some college football playoffs. The second round is set. The Miami Hurricanes are going to play the Ohio State Buckeyes. We have Georgia versus Ole Miss. Oregon versus Texas, and the Rose Bowl will be Alabama versus Indiana.
My Hoosiers, yeah. I don't know what to think. I was asking my buddy Bozich who is going to be the better opponent or the easier opponent for the Hoosiers, Oklahoma or Alabama. They looked dead, and I did watch a decent amount of that game. They obviously looked dead and buried. Wasn't they down 17-0 early?
Yeah.
And then when the thing turned, it absolutely really turned. So I don't know what to think. I think there's probably, despite the season Indiana's had, there's still going to be a little bit of a let's prove it to us in the postseason. And now it gets funky because, the SEC snobs are everywhere. So if Alabama takes care of business against Indiana at the Rose Bowl, it's going to get ugly, I think, for the Big Ten and for the Hoosiers. So we'll see how that goes. Although I think, I honestly believe Indiana has a pretty good chance to go a distance, and their quarterback at this level I love. At the next level, I think he's going to be really good too, Mendoza.
Yes, and then lastly, just looking around the NFL, we already talked about the Bears and the Packers game. The Bears win in overtime. Lions lose on a offensive pass interference call to end the game. There was obviously the suspension that came down. But elsewhere around the NFL, the Jags did beat the number 1 seed Broncos, although Denver still is in that top spot. Yeah. Pats beat the Ravens. Lamar Jackson left with a back injury. Chargers eliminated the Cowboys. The Panthers beat the Bucks, so they are first in the NFC South. They play the Bucks one more time the last week of the season. And then lastly, the Eagles did clinch by beating the Commanders on Saturday.
Yeah, I foolishly had Adam Thielen back with Carolina Well, obviously, that's where he'd been before he joined the Vikings, and now he is with Pittsburgh, although the Pittsburgh story, pretty good. Again, they took care of business, that controversial finish against Detroit, although I think that both those, really there were two offensive pass interference calls that worked against Detroit on that last drive, and I thought they were both legitimate calls. I thought they were both very good calls. I thought Rodgers looked better than I'd seen him in a while, getting the ball out. Jacksonville might be the best team that nobody really pays much attention to or knows about, right? Despite the what their record is, their ascension. And we spent a lot of time on the Bears Packers. We did have a cold call earlier with Carl Gerbschmidt. That could be podcastable later. It was one of those disarming Carl calls where as soon as he realized it was us, he started blubbering. He started crying and going back into his childhood for some stories that I didn't quite understand. But I don't trust him when he does that, because I think that's him trying to elicit sympathy and to take all the hatred away that a lot of Vikings fans have for him.
At work, by the way. I feel bad for his coworker.
Even better. That's very true. That's 5, right?
That's 5.
Good job. Excellent job. Let's stay on schedule. We'll pause. A lot of good Vikings talking points we have yet to explore, and a number of texts. We'll continue in that vein here on a Monday on Bumper to Bumper here on The Fan. We're getting a correction, another that is targeted at me, and I think a couple of these folks are correct. When we had Gerby on, when we called Gerby earlier in the show and left him blubbering, I noted that the last time I remember him crying quite that uncontrollably was after the Packers lost to Michael Vick in a home playoff game at Lambeau. And a couple of people said, not so fast, my friend. That time he called and left a voicemail for, I think it would have been Mr. Fun back then, was January of 2008, when the Packers were upset in minus 20 wind chill by Eli Manning and the Giants. He called, left a crying message for producer Gary, who was Mr. Fun. Vintage Gerby, that is from Tom, Columbia Heights. I think he's right. A couple other people had said the same thing, so we'll offer that to sort of correct the record. Let me get to another Vikings talking point. I call this one the, let's see, number 1, 2, 3, the JJ throw of the game. Let's listen.
J.J. McCarthy out of the shotgun on third down. Here's a Giants blitz. McCarthy straight drop. Throws to the end zone. Throws to Addison. And it's incomplete. He could not bring it in. The pass looked to be a good pass. Jordan twisted himself around a little bit. And the ball hit him on the 3, but he couldn't bring it in. So here comes Will Reichard.
Yeah, he had an opportunity to kind of bend that back. J.J. McCarthy, had to throw that football a little bit early, but put it in a really nice spot. So I'm actually kind of surprised that he did not come up with it. Just a beautifully thrown ball. Looked like it hit him right in the breadbasket there, Paul.
Yeah, I'm with both of them on that one. That's the one where I will easily, without any, question or hesitation, defend the QB. The ball was slightly behind the receiver, but it was almost necessary to do it. And that one was in both of his hands, basically in his breadbasket. And somehow in twisting, he could not hold on to it. That I put on that 95% on the receiver, especially when you factor in that JJ kind of had to get rid of the ball perhaps a little bit earlier than he wanted to. That pass is not to be confused with what I call the Max Brosmer pass of the game.
Max Brosmer. The Vikings 4 of 8 on third down, looking at a 3rd and 17. He'll throw left to Jefferson, caught at the 46, and yes! That's That's a cold-blooded connection. Right hash, left sideline, 22 yards, Brosmer to Justin Jefferson, and a first down.
What an absolute beauty of a catch by Justin Jefferson, Paul. That's as good as you'll see out of that young man. Holy cow.
He's right about that, but that's a big-time throw. I think that's a better throw than any we had from J.J. McCarthy yesterday. I'll be honest. We've had a lot of fun with the Brosmer stuff. That's the kind of throw where you go, he can make that throw, huh? On third and, what was it? I think 17. Now, great response. You got to have a big-time receiver who can come down with the ball, keep his feet in bounds. But that's the kind of throw that not everybody can make. That I think if you're a scout, if you're a general manager, if you're a coach, you're going, somewhere down the road, maybe we can play with that a little bit. That was extremely well done. And I believe that was on the game-winning field goal drive. That kept it alive early, if I'm not mistaken. The drive that ultimately, I honestly believe, for a while I thought the Giants were going to be perfectly content if the Vikings had run out the clock. That drive, it just ended the game. I don't think they had any desire to be back on offense. None whatsoever. They did have one drop. The only good pass play they had, I remember who the receiver was who dropped it. They had one drop as well, and it stood out just because they had so few pass plays that even looked like pass plays.
Yeah,
it was bizarre.
I think Jackson Dart only had 13 attempts the whole game.
Yeah, it was a very curious state of affairs. I get it. He's got concussion stuff, but it really is. It's like if you're going to tighten it up that much, then you do ask yourself, why are you playing him? I mean, I know you don't want to play Russell Wilson, I guess, anymore, but why are you playing him if if you believe him to be at this point that limited? Unless it is an attempt to tank responsibly as well, which might have something to do with it. We spent a lot of time on sermons, probably too much time for Bears haters on Bears Packers, because as I said then, regardless of what team was involved on either end of that was the story of the weekend. That game, that comeback, national TV game was astonishing. It was stunning in its scope and in its totality. And the Bears down 16-6 with like 2 minutes to go, end up scoring the last 16 points of the game and win in OT 22-16. Now, you were not at the game, but you were in the Windy City. Was that just coincidence, or what brought you to Chicago?
Yeah, I was down there for a little bit of work stuff, a little bit of family stuff. But so actually I was down at the Field Museum on Saturday morning, early afternoon. So they were starting to kind of set up Soldier Field, because the Field Museum's right next door to Soldier Field.
Yeah, it is.
And it was already chaotic right away in the morning. I don't even want to talk about how much I paid for parking when I got down there, but it was definitely pandemonium. You could feel that energy, kind of like what it was here when the Vikings played the Lions. I mean, that was a road game last year, but there was a lot of energy in downtown Chicago on Saturday.
Well, we've talked about this here. I mean, this is in the 40 years I've been here, it's always been a Vikings town. Now, obviously, there are exceptions. If the Twins are making a run for the World Series, that changes for that period of time. But it's a Vikings town. The Vikings are on a plateau all their own, even if they're not doing particularly well. But when the engine's running, then that's all anybody wants to talk about. That's where all the energy comes from a sports standpoint. And it's the same in Chicago times 10, probably. It's a Bears town. The Cubs finally had their moment, obviously. The Bulls, when Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan, turned it into a Bulls town, or as close as you could get to that. But the Bears are on another level, just as in Chicago, just as the Vikings are on another level here. Field Museum is not a bad spot.
Yeah, it was great.
It's one of those places that you could spend 10 days in and you're still not going to get to everything.
It's funny you say that, because it was my first time going there.
Yeah.
I was there for, I think, 6 hours, and we didn't even get to see everything.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's so immersive and just it's huge.
It's remarkable, and I can still remember the first field trip we took to it, and it was like, then everything's much bigger. Everything feels bigger because you're smaller. Right. And it's just a marvel. I mean, it's just such an incredible place. And I think it's still open. Further south, there's the Museum of Science and Industry, which I haven't been to in quite a while. But the Field Museum was always the one that it just felt like there was a great sense of history in that place for sure. We were talking earlier about the Giants' approach to offense. We call this Vikings talking point simply that the Giants benched Russell Wilson for this guy.
Jackson takes the snap. He gets away from the pressure, but then Jalen Rudman sacks him at the 15-yard line. Dart on fourth down, back to pass. He's sacked by Andrew Van Ginkel. And the Vikings have turned over the New York Giants on downs. Dart, shotgun, throws a pass to the left. Intercepted off the fingertips of tight end Theo Johnson. Byron Murphy Jr. Dart on a very deep drop, about to be sacked, and he is sacked for a fourth time today.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it went. And I guess you could say that's why they didn't want to ever have him throw all that much. I think one of those was they early decided to ignore the field goal. I'm assuming under the basis of what do they have to lose? I mean, there really wasn't anything at stake, and they were unable to convert. But I have rarely seen a game in which one of the teams seemed less interested in attacking offensively in any way, shape, or form. And again, I understand that they're worried about the QB's health. They don't feel very good about their passing game. But at some point, you do sort of ask, well, why did you? I don't know if it's ever happened that an NFL team has forfeited a game, but are you almost better off forfeiting the game? Because that's how it felt. It felt like, well, we're not, we know we're not a very good team, but even if you're not a very good team, you're at home, and aren't you supposed to at least try to win the game? Unless, again, you've been ordered to tank responsibly. I don't know. By the way, the Monday night game, look who's on the screen right now. It's our guy, Cam Bynum, former bumper-to-bumper regular, is being interviewed pregame. They have these little With It and Wow pregame interviews on ESPN on Monday Night Countdown, and that's what's going on right now. Our guy, Cam Bynum, who has three interceptions this season for the Colts. I'm assuming Phillip Rivers is starting again, right?
Oh, he is, yeah.
So that's the angle tonight. I didn't get to see much of his work last week. I think they ended up losing a close game. But
lost to the Seahawks.
That's what it was, yeah. And I think the Seahawks had to score late to get the victory.
It was a game-winning field goal for them.
So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how he looked. I mean, I think he was not great in the last game, but he didn't look inept. He didn't look like he shouldn't be out there. So, and the Colts are very desperate, obviously, for a victory as well. I'm assuming that's on the Fan tonight, right? Monday Night Football?
Yes.
Gotta be, I would think. Because I don't think we have any Wild, and we don't have any Wolves, I don't believe.
Yeah, let me double check.
Yes. Yeah, you can double check. They're taking on, for the record, the Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers as well. The worst game in NFL history might be played next weekend, Giants-Raiders. Is that a matchup? My God. That could be very, very bad. Lots of discussion around the water cooler on who gets that Vikings win, JJ or Max. What say you? It's probably a distinction not worth spending all that much time on, but he did lead them on what was ultimately the game-winning drive, I believe. So that would be Max, including that beautiful out pattern where you got to have some zip on the ball on 3rd and 17. That was a very pretty, very, very pretty play. Let me get to a couple of other. Well, actually, I'll save the rest of the talking points. I think we have like 2 left, and let me get to a couple more texts as well. Oh yeah, because somebody had asked any interest in tonight's tilt in Indy. Yeah, mainly because of the quarterback thing. That is the main thing for me. And the 49ers backup is, we've talked about the Vikings. I believe should be obligated to add a veteran quarterback to the competition before next season. I think whatever plans they had of anointing JJ should be out the window, not necessarily because of his sort of spotty second season. Been a little better lately, but has been overall statistically still pretty bad. Not because of that, but because of availability. I still believe you're not doing your due diligence as an organization. You're not really protecting the assets you do have. If you are simply saying, we're going to close our eyes, roll the dice, and hope that J.J. McCarthy not only can continue to improve, but to stay on the field, I don't think you can do it for a second straight year. The question, again, is who do you get? What's the price? How much does that affect you contractually? All those things are fair points, but I believe that you're letting your own organization down if you do not add a veteran quarterback who is given an honest opportunity, I might add, to win the job. Doesn't mean he has to win it. Doesn't mean he's going to win it. But I think that's, if nothing else, if we've learned nothing else about McCarthy, even if you're a McBobo and love him, what's undeniable and inescapable right now is he has not been able to stay on the field. So you got to hedge your bet. You have to give yourself a kind of insurance that is more than just the average backup quarterback, but a quarterback that you at least envision as being a starter, and being a guy that the quarterback whisperer can work with again. And I know the whole point of drafting McCarthy was to get out of that morass, to get off of that hamster wheel where we're constantly just trying to bring in veterans and patch it together and keep it together. The whole idea was, here's our franchise quarterback. We're going to be done with this problem for the next 10 years, the way they are able to do generation after generation, for example, in Green Bay. That makes sense, and that ultimately still might take place. But if you, as I said, miss as much time as he has missed over the course of the first two seasons in the league, I just don't know. I don't know how you can stay with it. Now, he played half of the game yesterday, so he played in or started in 9 games so far over 2 seasons. So that's going to be, if he doesn't play again this season, out of 34 possible regular season games, he would have played in 9 of them. I can even do that math. I think that's 25 that he will have missed. And that's not a good percentage. That's not a workable percentage. And that, to me, is what opens the door to thinking of this philosophically differently than they might have when they thought, we don't really want any kind of competition. We think this is the guy. Maybe he'll play the rest of the season without missing, or rest of his career without missing another game. That happens. It can change, but it's not a good look right now. 4 different injuries over that period of time. That's just simply not workable. Top of the hour break, a couple more Vikings talking points to get to. We will be going the distance until 6:30 right here on a balmy Monday afternoon and evening here on the Fin. We will have Niners Colts on our flagship FM 100.3 The Fan after, as usual, a day after Vikings games. Viking Rewind, final half hour of the Bumper to Bumper program for today. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. We've been talking a lot about injuries. I don't believe there's any evidence that J.J. McCarthy was injured on this play, but this was the play that ended his afternoon and quite possibly ended his season for the Minnesota Vikings.
As Ben Lieber on the sideline mentioned, only touchdown in the game, J.J. McCarthy, his 4th rushing touchdown, and he goes back to pass.
Look out.
Oh, he's buried by Brian Burns, and it's picked up by a Giant for a defensive touchdown. Tyler Newbin, the former Gopher, scores against the Minnesota Vikings on a Brian Burns sack, and it's 13-9 Vikings. Brian Burns, holy cow.
There it is. Yeah, It's one of those weird end of halves things where you go, what do we do? How aggressive do we want to be? And KOC being KOC, he's usually going to be pretty aggressive. But on the other hand, the feeling was, well, we're in the early part of the J.J. McCarthy awakening, so let's not push our luck too much. So it was kind of an in-betweener. Lieber thought that he was already losing control of the ball before he got hit. He got hit hard. And originally, I think there was some feeling of, well, did he get hurt or jarred or even concussed on that play? Because it was a very hard hit. It turns out it was something hand-related. We still don't have specifics on it. No update today on his availability. But many of you saw the sideline shot where he was being examined by either a doctor or a trainer and almost seemed to lose his mind when any pressure was put on somewhere on that hand, whether it was the wrist or a finger. I think it might have been a finger, whatever. Might have been the old earlier hit his finger on the helmet on a follow-through, on a pass attempt. But that falls under the classification of the kind of play at the end of the half where you're kind of in control of things that just can't happen. There has to be either better recognition or a better ability to hang on to the ball, whatever the case may be. I mean, to me, that felt like the freest 7 points that one team could possibly give the other. And by the way, that's the better team giving to the inferior team. Now, ultimately, it didn't matter because they are, after all, the Giants, but it was not a very helpful play. Then he trots out, or actually walks early to the locker room, the visiting locker room. And at that point, you could pretty much tell there was a good chance that it was going to be a Brosmer second half for your favorite football team. Speaking of injuries, and we did talk about this with Lieber, this one in some ways maybe is being underrated and has a great deal of significance because it goes back to really one of the off-season designs of this team was we're going to go out and spend some money on some veteran players, and we're going to remake this offensive line pretty much on the fly, and that included the signing of center Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, we got a Viking offensive lineman now. It looks like Ryan Kelly, who's slow to get up. But I think it was Drew Phillips who's going to draw this penalty because it was thrown way before Aaron Jones. Hopefully the Vikings will get in their free 15 yards on this. But, yeah, Ryan Kelly being down, that's not good.
Yeah, he's had myriad concussions during his career, cost him some games this year due to concussion-related symptoms. You got Tyler Williams, who runs the sports performance and training department, talking to a side judge saying we need a little more time. Aaron Jones and Drew Phillips still jawing at each other from afar. And Michael Juergens is warming up to fill in for Ryan Kelly, who still lay on his back.
Yeah, none of that is good. And it's difficult to believe that Ryan Kelly's career is going to go beyond this season and probably shut down, we all would assume, for the rest of the year. But when you have the concussion history he does, ultimately it's the player's choice, I think. It's difficult for me to believe that he is not going to choose discretion at some point being the better form of valor. And we did, the one thing that was discussed at the time that that this team made those offseason moves and got very aggressive with in this case, two members of the Indianapolis Colts, was whether you're running the risk of adding players who are, shall we say, not done, but towards the back end, a decent amount of mileage. Now, I don't know how much information we were made aware of regarding his concussion history, but in general, I think there was some concern about that part of it. And I think we've seen now the extent of why there may have been a bit of a gamble, even as ambitious as those moves were. We're getting some veteran offensive linemen who know what the hell they're doing, with some beef to them and some size to them. But the question was always going to be, at what expense, right? Is the money going to be worth it? Are you getting players that you're going to be able to hold on to for an extended period of time? That's also the question. In his case, it is very difficult to see a scenario where you're going to be able to continue to count on him at all. And so then you're back to, well, do you have to go some other direction? Maybe. What other direction would that be? I'm not sure. But it's hard to believe that it would not be the end of the road for an individual who's had as many concussions as he has had. And it's too bad because he's been a good to a very good player. A couple texts here to wrap up this segment of the program. Injuries to players as Vikings quarterbacks last 3 seasons. Cousins, Mullins, Hall, Dobbs, Darnold, although he didn't miss any full games, Wentz, McCarthy. Maybe it's not a J-Mac problem, but a Vikings O-line problem, though it was solved this year, but they haven't been available themselves. OL still a big problem. Solve that and maybe JJ stays upright for more than 3-4 games in a row. It's part of it. I just don't think it's all of it. I think that's too easy. I think research indicated that some of the sacks were on the quarterbacks themselves, especially in the case of McCarthy holding on to the ball too long. So again, could the line be more consistent? Could it be healthier? Yes. Might you make better decisions in terms of players who give you a better chance to have better health? Yes. Some of that's bad luck as well. Dan, this is the second time KOC has gotten a key player injured by being cute right before halftime. Last season, it was running a play right before the half against the Rams, and that play, Darisaw tore his ACL, just take a knee. Well, yeah, I get that, but then a lot of times you have people who say that now, but also the same ones who say, well, you're not being aggressive enough, That can play both ways. I'm not all that offended by it. Let's remember something. At the point where McCarthy, as far as we know, is still healthy, you're still trying to use these games to get him the reps in various situations and circumstances. And one of those would be, all right, we're kind of wanting to play it halfway here at the end of the half. That means we're going to try to make a couple of plays. And if we can get something going, we're going to keep going. If we can't, then we probably will sit on the ball. Now, the unknown is, this is where it's goofy to me on communication. So if he didn't get hurt on the strip sack, then presumably he had something going on with his hand previous to that. Isn't that something that might then impact how aggressive the head coach is? That's to me where there's more to this story that I'd like to get told, and I hope it will be told. That is the one area where information probably should dictate a more conservative approach, saying, hey, they're not going to be able to score, so we're just going to get the hell out of Dodge for the half. I got a quarterback whose right hand is a little bit funky and a little bit iffy on the basis of whatever had taken place sooner. So that's what I'm hoping the Jackals will able to garner more information on, perhaps as soon as tomorrow. Don't forget, this is a big Christmas week for your favorite football team. They will take on the Lions on Thursday, Christmas Day. I think that's is that the second game on Christmas? I think it's the second game of the three, correct? Is it 3 on Christmas?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the middle one.
Did you see the halftime announcement, by the way?
I did.
I can't wait.
I asked this earlier. I mean, maybe we don't even need to play the game, because there's not as much at stake for the Vikings and not that much for the Lions. So maybe we just have a concert and don't even worry about playing, It's a possibility.
That's an option. I'll let you throw that out there.
Well, my fantasy, what I've clamored for is I want a third quarter with Snoop in the KFAN press box or the KFAN booth in the press box, working the game with PA and Bursich.
That would be amazing.
That would be outstanding, wouldn't it?
That'd be
terrific.
Great.
Yeah, it'd be very good. All right, one last break, and we'll come back, wrap things up, remind you what you might have missed and what's coming up the rest of the week.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Well, I want to thank our outstanding array of guests today. That included John Athletic at 4:02, and Ben Lieber joined at 4:47. Vikings Talking Points, a big part of the conversation today as well. We were not graced by a current member of the Vikings. Some weeks we've been able to have a Vikings guest even after Adam Thielen decided that it was time for him to go elsewhere. A short week this week, so no guest there. I also want to thank Sam Bird, kind enough to help us today with Guardsy already landing, I think, in Arizona. Blakemore, I'm assuming he's on vacation somewhere. It's the holiday season. So I appreciate your help today as well, sir. It was fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, this is a pleasure. I'm pretty sure, by the way, you and I are the only two people in this whole building.
You're about right. I think that's very, very true. Everything's kind of been shut down. Although it feels even sometimes like regular weeks, it can be a little bit like a ghost town as well. A couple people had said, you're talking about the availability issue for McCarthy. Why aren't you bringing this up with Joe Burrow, a guy that we've talked about earlier, that if you could get a hold of him, you'd have to at least entertain the possibility. He never plays either. Well, there's a couple differences here. Like, for example, this year, he's missed a bunch. I think Burrow played in 6 games this year, and he's done, I think, or close to it. Last year, he played in 17. The year before that, he played in 10. The 2 years before that, he played 16 apiece. And that was in the 16-game seasons, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't go too much on just what's happened this season on Joe Burrow. Also, the difference would be he's Joe Burrow. And to that extent, you're going to give him a little bit, he's got a little bit more equity than J.J. McCarthy at this level. And so to that extent, you're going to maybe be more willing to pray and hope that, for example, this year was an anomaly because he's so damned effective as a passer and he's so good. That's part of the sticky wicket with McCarthy. I don't care how tough it is. He's so damned good at what he does or has already shown how good he can be. We got to hang with it, man. We got to hang with it. He hadn't been good enough in this short amount of time we've had a chance to see him in the better part of 9 games. He played better the last several, although again, I thought this last game was just okay compared to the previous 2. But you got to factor in, you got to have your purple colored lenses out of your eyeballs a little bit and just say, well, giving him the extra mile or going the extra mile with him on the basis of what we've seen, that's not as easy as maybe taking the gamble as it would pertain to a guy like Joe Burrow, who's not going to end up here realistically. I don't expect that. I don't even know if necessarily that the Bengals are going to move on from him because that would be quite a surrender as well. But those are two completely different animals that should not at all be related. And I'll say again that whether the Vikings agree with this or not, we'll find out, I think, soon enough. I think you're letting down your whole team, the other players on your team, if you do not give yourself a better option. And that doesn't have to be any sort of statement about that you think J.J. McCarthy is a failure. It's a statement that J.J. McCarthy to this point has not been available. And if that problem goes away next year, in the next 5 years, the problem will take care of itself. But in the short run, for this upcoming season, I just don't think you can go in and roll the dice the way they did coming into this year. You look back on it and you think they really took a lot of gumption and gall to just assume that you're going to be able to pick up where you left off with a kid quarterback. And now, especially with the amount of time that he has missed, give yourself a chance with another viable quarterback who you view as more than just another backup, but a guy who has a chance that you think to actually keep your team in it, even if he has to play 4, 5, or 6 games. And maybe you go a step further and you say, as circus-like as this can get, and I know that's what the Vikings, like a lot of teams, want to avoid, you say, we're having an open competition. We're just going to let the chips fall where they may, and we'll see where it goes. And if they're confident enough in J.J. McCarthy, it'll end up being J.J. McCarthy who keeps the job. But if not, maybe you learn something and you say, well, we got to go with what we got to go with. So we'll see. A lot of that, again, depends on who's available, what it'll cost, what you're willing to give up, the amount of money. All those sorts of things, I think, have to be entered into the mix. Tomorrow, I'm assuming, we'll get a little bit more information on when the injury took place, because I think that's still an open question. I've heard a lot of stuff's been sent about videos showing him hitting his hand on somebody's helmet. That is often the case. in a situation like this. And maybe we'll all be surprised. Maybe he'll end up recovering quickly, and whatever it is, it's much, much better now, and he'll start on Christmas Day against the Detroit Lions. I wouldn't count on it necessarily. And then guess what? Brosmer gets a start, his second start, and who knows? Maybe he's better equipped to handle this opportunity than he was the first time around. When you're on the road, you're playing in difficult conditions, you're playing Seattle, a good defensive team. The Detroit Lions are not very good defensively. The fan has learned, I don't believe. So that to me is where it would get delicious, actually, is if Brosmer starts and, unlike in Seattle, dazzles everybody a little bit, ends up being pretty good. And then, of course, we finished the regular season against the Green Bay Packers, who are still licking their wounds after somehow blowing that 10-point lead late to the monsters of the Midway, the Chicago Bears. So we will see. The plan, by the way, the rest of the week, I don't even know who's on. I'm out for the holiday purposes the rest of this week. So I don't know if Guardsy's on from Arizona some. For all I know, it could be Dave Sinekin, other people. Maybe Russo's hosting a show. I'm not exactly sure. And then a few of those days are holidays anyway, where I think we're doing best of or we're doing games. Christmas is obviously all the action of the Vikings game will be on the fan as well. So we'll regroup on the other side and well into hard to believe, man, 26 as well. What are your Christmas plans? Do you hang here? Do you go elsewhere? What's the
Yeah, I'll be in town.
Okay.
I'll be doing stuff with my sister and her family.
So are you from here?
Yes.
Okay, so you grew up in the area, so you're just
Correct.
hanging with, okay.
Yeah.
And the Chicago trip you said was some business and then also just pleasure, just a weekend sort of get away a little bit?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I was in Elgin on Saturday night. I was at the Grand Victoria Casino.
Oh.
Just a riverboat casino. And they have a sports book there, and that was the closest thing to a Vegas sports book I've seen in a long time. I mean, they were all about it.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, I mean the Bears fans were. I mean, it's you're behind enemy lines at that point, but they were very much into it.
Interesting. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you and yours and your family as well. Thanks for helping us out today, as I said, and to the Rubes and the listeners. I hope this whole week, whole holiday period goes very, very well for you. We appreciate your continued support of the station. Hope most of you have gotten most of the Christmas shopping done. The bad news is if you like Christmas atmosphere, I think it's supposed to be balmy. Like 40-ish, 45 on Christmas Day, did I read?
It was, I think, mid-30s.
Yeah, mid-30s.
But
okay.
40s this weekend.
But no more snow, I don't think. I don't think there's any snow in the forecast right now.
No.
We're not going to get all the snow melted, are we, by then?
I hope not.
Yeah. It'll be very messy. That part is for sure. So here's the deal. Coming up next, right here on the fan, it's Vikings Rewind. And then it is, I think, a pretty interesting matchup. Monday Night Football, San Francisco 49ers in Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Phillip Rivers, they're showing him on the screen right now. And look at that. He still has a full head of hair, and he's about 56 years old. Still looks good to me. I'll look forward to that tonight. Enjoy the holidays. We'll talk to you soon.